The crystalline halls of the Galactic Council chamber had never witnessed such deafening silence. Ambassador Zexathara of the hegemony shifted nervously in her biopod, her 6 eyes darting between the holographic display and the lone human representative, standing at the center of the vast amphitheater. Admiral Sarah Chen stood motionless, her military dress uniform pristine despite having traveled 47 light years to deliver humanity's response to the Council's ultimatum. Behind her, 3-dimensional projections flickered with devastating clarity, images that would haunt the assembled delegates for centuries to come. The Terran Federation acknowledges the Galactic Council's concerns, Admiral Chen began, her voice carrying easily across the chamber despite its massive scale. You demanded our immediate surrender. You threatened to glaze our homeworld. You gave us 72 standard hours to comply. High Counselor Vraktun, the ancient cephalopod whose species had founded the Council 8 millennia ago, leaned forward in his suspension tank. His translator device crackled as it processed his thoughts into Standard Galactic. Human, your species was warned. Territorial expansion beyond approved sectors is forbidden. The annexation of the Proxima systems violated nothing, Chen interrupted, causing a ripple of shock through the assembly. No species had ever dared interrupt a High Counselor. Our colonists settled uninhabited worlds. Your hegemony forces attacked civilian transports. 17,000 human souls, including children, were vaporized without warning. The holographic display shifted, showing footage from the Proxima massacre, families boarding evacuation shuttles, the sudden appearance of hegemony dreadnoughts, the brilliant flashes as antimatter torpedoes found their targets. Several delegates looked away. Regrettable, Counselor Zexathara interjected, her translator giving her voice a mechanical quality. But necessary to maintain galactic order. Your species is young, aggressive. You expand too quickly, consume too much. The established powers cannot allow. Chen's laugh was sharp, bitter. You made a critical error in your calculations, counselors. You assumed we were just another primitive species to be culled when convenient. You forgot to ask the most important question. The chamber fell silent again. Even the soft humming of environmental systems seemed to pause. What happens when you threaten the children of a species that conquered its own homeworld through nothing but sustained creative violence? The holographic display changed again. This time, it showed star charts, dozens of hegemony systems, each marked with tactical annotations and timestamps from the past 72 hours. High Counselor Vraktun's tentacles writhed in his tank. What is the meaning of this? The meaning, High Counselor, is that while your fleets massed at our borders and your diplomats composed surrender terms, humanity did what humanity does best. Chen pressed a control on her wrist device. We solved the problem. The first image showed the hegemony's primary naval yard at Kethmoru, or rather what remained of it, twisted metal and debris floating in space, emergency beacons flashing desperately in the void. 17 shipyards, Chen announced calmly, destroyed simultaneously across a front of 300 light years. The display continued cycling. Through images of devastation, military installations reduced to crater fields, entire fleets caught in harbor, their crews never knowing what hit them, supply depots that had fed hegemony expansion for centuries, now expanding clouds of superheated gas. How? Counselor Zexathara's voice had lost its mechanical certainty. Our intelligence networks detected no human fleet movements. Our sensors showed your ships still defending your core systems. Chen smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. That's because you've spent so long being the apex predators that you forgot to watch for the smaller threats. Tell me, counselors, in all your vast databases of galactic species, what's the average lifespan of a human? Approximately 80 standard years, replied the AI that managed the Council's records. Correct. Now tell them, AI, what's the average lifespan of a human who volunteers for a one-way mission to protect their species? The AI paused, an eternity in computational terms. Unknown, insufficient data. The answer, Chen said, is exactly as long as it takes to complete the mission. You see, when you threatened to glass Earth, you inadvertently triggered something we call human mathematics. You made it clear that surrender meant extinction, resistance meant extinction, so we calculated a third option. The holographic display now showed a new image, sleek, small vessels that seemed to bend light around their hulls. 17,000 volunteers, Chen continued, one for each soul you murdered at Proxima. They loaded themselves into our fastest stealth ships, along with antimatter charges, programmed a final destination and said goodbye to everyone they'd ever loved. Then they spent 71 hours traveling to your most vital installations. The implications hit the assembled delegates like a physical blow. Several species representatives began frantically activating communication devices, trying to reach their own military commands. The beauty of human mathematics, Chen said, watching their panic with professional interest, is that it scales. You killed 17,000 of us. We've just killed approximately 4 million of you and eliminated 60% of your military infrastructure. By our calculations, that represents a net positive trade ratio. High Counselor Vraktun's ancient voice shook with rage and disbelief. This is madness. You've doomed your entire species. The combined fleets of the Council will what? Chen's voice cut through his threats like ice. Your 3 largest member species just lost their primary naval assets. The Kethmoran shipyards that produced 70% of Council warships are radioactive dust. Your supply lines are severed, your command structure is in chaos, and your survivors are too busy conducting search and rescue operations to plan invasions. She paused, letting the reality sink in. But here's the truly beautiful part of human mathematics, High Counselor. This was just our opening move. Earth's population is 8 billion souls. That's 8 billion potential volunteers for one-way missions, each with access to technology you clearly didn't know we possessed. So I have a simple question for this august body. Admiral Chen looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes, or optical sensors, of every delegate present. Would you like to do the math on what happens if you continue to threaten our children? The silence that followed was absolute. In that moment, the Galactic Council learned the most important lesson about humanity, a lesson that would reshape interstellar politics for generations to come. Never threaten a species that has spent its entire evolutionary history finding creative ways to kill things that were bigger, stronger, and better armed than themselves. The vote to grant humanity full council membership and recognize all human territorial claims was unanimous.